Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Jen from Dow Labs, and today we are talking social media. We have three practitioners that I'm going to introduce shortly, and we are so excited to have them here with us. And we're going to just talk a little bit about, during this time, many acupuncturists that I've been talking to have, said, there are things they didn't really have time for, very, very busy seeing patients. And while, everyone is shifting, some folks are preparing to reopen, some folks are, in that telemedicine realm, some folks are in both, right? It's a time where the people I've been talking to, the practitioners I've been talking are trying to, figure things out and wanting to do more with social media. So we thought we would introduce some of our experts here. So today we'll talk a little bit more about launching social media. We have folks at different levels in their practice. Some are doing it on their own, some are getting support. We'll have Q&A, and also the other thing I've been talking about with folks is is having conversations about how to educate our patients about Chinese herbal medicine. So a lot of folks I've talked to said, I don't really want to seem like I'm selling, but I do want to educate. So we have some ideas around that too, and our panelists can certainly help. So again, my name is Jen Ward, and I have been a practitioner 6-7 years, and I started with Dow Labs in October. I used to have a background in marketing and advertising. Unfortunately for me, I was starting to learn about social media, and that was 2009, and then went to acupuncture school. So the whole world changed in terms of social during that time. So today we have Hillary Patzer from Jada, Jennifer Tom, Allison Locke, and Hillary is based in Minneapolis, doctor of Chinese medicine, licensed acupuncturist and herbalist. She's also a level 3 stretch specialist, does craniosacral and neurokinetic therapy, also sports acupuncturist for the Minnesota Vikings, and a professional athlete. Allison Locke comes to us from Vancouver, BC, a licensed acupuncturist and member of a college in British Columbia, also fellow of ABORM, registered yoga teacher, bringing in incorporating Ayurveda. And we'll take everyone off mute shortly and introduce themselves. And then we have Jennifer Tom, who's also a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, licensed acupuncturist in Carlsbad, California. And I love the way Jennifer talks about the medicine as practical, down-to-earth healthcare. So that's great. And I am sort of new to doing all of this. So we're going to now unmute folks. Okay, let's make sure everybody is off mute. Looks like Allison, Hillary, Jennifer, we're all here?
Hello.
Hi.
Okay,
Yes.
hello. All right. Thank you for joining. If there was anything I missed that's very pertinent in your bio, please let me know. Or, when you introduce yourself here, thank you for joining. I thought we would just get started with some of the questions that I asked. Anything to start? Anything you want to mention or clarify of anything that I said in my introductions for all of you?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we'll just dive right in. And this is going to be available as a recording as well for folks to look through. So I thought we could quickly, let me just share the screen. Okay. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So these will be in the slides for anybody listening in or listening to the recording. All the Instagram, I just pulled Instagram, but we'll, talk. I know some of you also focus on Facebook, but these will be listed in the slides we place online. So we have Dr. Jennifer here, really again, we chose these three folks for a reason. And Hillary at Jada, just dynamic imaging, really great. We'll talk more about that today, and you can look in your own time. And then we have AccuBalance with Al.
Oh, that's actually not my main page.
Oh my God. Oh, it's not. Okay. Which one is your main page? Sorry about that. Which one is that one? So I could go to it. Oh, oops, sorry. CFG healing. Sorry about that. I had them both.
Oh, no worries. I do also do that page
healing.
though.
So is it just CFG healing, or is there
there's underscores?
Underscore?
Yeah.
Like
yeah, exactly.
Right here, between all the words. Awesome. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
I'll include that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there it goes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, I was like, all right, great. So I just wanted everyone to just get a quick sense, and then I will update this to the document. So given the first question here is for Jennifer,
Yes,
when
hi.
did you start focusing on social media?
So I started my practice in 2015 and started my Instagram account around the same time, but I didn't post regularly until probably about a year after that. And at the time, I had this idea that I wanted to do social media, but didn't really know how to start or what to do. So I decided to just give myself a challenge to post every weekday for a month. And that really helped me create a routine for managing my social media, getting in the habit of planning posts, writing them, executing them, and then honestly getting over the fear of putting my posts out there. Doing it that consistently, you just kind of get over it, and then it gets more routine and doesn't feel so weird and awkward. So that's how I started.
Okay, and how much time would you say, and again, this may have changed over time once you kind of got into the routine, like, do you set a specific amount of time aside to do that?
At the time, I probably did. I would schedule it in, say I would see patients in the morning and then spend some time in the afternoon doing it. I don't know how long I probably spent writing them, but maybe at least a couple of hours a week, at least to start.
Okay. And then what about now? How is it going for you now?
As far as how much time do I think I spend on it?
Yep.
Oh. I would say it's down to an hour, but maybe every few days. I would say I don't plan out my posts super far in advance. So I think then it would take more time. I tend to just do it by the week as things come up. So it's probably more like an hour here or an hour there or half an hour or 15 minutes. It just kind of depends.
Yeah, and I think that's just like the biggest roadblock for a lot of people is, finding that time, carving out the time, deciding if they want to prioritize that time. So I don't know thank you, Jennifer, if Hillary or Allison, if you have any thoughts on that as well, in terms of the time that you're taking, or, how you decided to move into focusing on making this a priority for your practice.
I can speak. This is Hillary, and then Allison can. Yeah, I've kind of gone back and forth with social media, and it's something that I have 4 employees, but I personally in my practice am almost 100% referral based. And so there's been plenty of time, and this is all of my recent, I committed with COVID to do a Facebook Live post a day, which at the time I thought would be, a couple of weeks. And now we're looking at, I've been doing a Facebook Live post, which if anybody's done that before, it's sort of terrifying. But I've been doing that every day, and just tried to commit to seeing, hey, let's see if we can get some momentum, or it was sort of like a study to do during COVID, is let's really focus on this aspect of social media. We do more of the, stagnant posts, just the picture with, potentially the call to action and the description more regularly. We've been sticking with just the videos recently, and it's pretty interesting to hear and to see which ones get a lot more interaction of the videos. And so that's been kind of a good learning lesson, because one of the things that I've learned about social media is it doesn't matter what you want to put out there. It really matters what your viewers want from you.
Right.
And so sort of like quieting down, well, I think this would be really cool, and being like, but are they going to think that this is really cool? So I've gone on and off with social media and do spend a fair amount of time on it, even though I have somebody who helps me with my posts. And marketing, I actually end up doing a bit of it because I have to provide, all of the information. It is not our major referral getter, though. We're still more like word of mouth, and but I do really enjoy social media. I think it's a really wonderful way to get your brand out there. It's just hard to stay up with the algorithms, which I'm sure everybody experiences.
Right. And that's where sometimes, having someone that has that knowledge, and that's their day to day, is what I've found is helpful too, because it's near impossible. I used to come from the media world. It's near impossible for me to kind of stay up on all of that stuff because the platforms just are constantly changing. I'm just curious, you mentioned the videos, and I, pulled them up. Was there any, when you said, it's interesting to see which ones perform and which ones are more popular, any kind of like key points, or just, it's something that you're just now kind of seeing the difference? I just, didn't know if there was like, wow, that these kind of videos perform over these other ones.
What I've found, and I think that some of it is because I've been in practice over 10 years now. And as you had mentioned, I'm in the sports world. So I'm an elite endurance athlete. And then I treat, I work for the NFL, but then I also treat a lot of really high level, either individual and endurance athletes, or a lot of professional sports teams. So they like my viewers, my followers really like when I tag my players. I have a picture or something like that with them. Or I did some video testimonials for I don't know how far down it would be now. We've been in COVID for a while, for a symposium that I was a part of. And so I got just some video testimonials from the guys, and people loved that. But what they really love is my personal story. So ones that are more related specifically to my journey and what I've done, get a lot of interactions, which I thought was interesting. And when I highlight a bunch of products, people don't interact as well as when I highlight modalities. So cupping, acupuncture, dry needling, that kind of thing. And so that's been, now somebody I saw, I think it maybe was Allison, who's more fertility. And I could be butchering it all. We only saw the page from it. That could be completely different for somebody who's not sports medicine based. And so people are going to be looking for different things, which is really important to know who your viewership is, and what works in Vancouver isn't going to work in Minnesota, and what works for fertility or digestive or, whatever, your practice is focused on is not going to necessarily work for a high level athlete.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And thanks for that insight. And Allison, I know that what you told me is that you kind of started all this in school.
Yeah, so I started my Instagram about 4 years ago in my last year of school. And we had a business class for about a semester where we had to create like a business plan and like a hypothetical clinic. And that's where I came up with, I guess, my Sea of Chi healing idea. And I just thought it was a good time to start a website. And start being a little bit more active on social media and experimenting with it a bit more and seeing, I guess, where it took me. And yeah, at first I definitely didn't really understand like how to engage and what posts got more views and everything. But I guess over the years, you just kind of see what people like and how they like it. And yeah, what Hillary was saying was it is kind of surprising what people kind of resonate more to. It's not necessarily what you think when you're sitting down and creating all those posts. And yeah, I do think I spend a bit more time on it now than I did when I first started. But I find it's something that where like the more time you put in, the more you get out as well. So it just really depends on how much time you're willing to set aside and I guess sort it all out.
Yeah. And so do you kind of have a sense? Do you say, okay, I'm going to spend this many hours in this week, or does it just depend on what's going on for you?
Yeah, it does depend. I mean, I try to like do it when I'm in the mood and not sort of schedule it too much. So it becomes just something to cross off on my to-do list. But I do typically try to spend about maybe, well, I always try to plan about a week's worth ahead. And I definitely don't post every day. But yeah, I always try to plan a week's worth of posts ahead, and I'll always try to have in my phone just a bunch of photos that I could potentially use as posts just to have something as backup. So I will try to sit down about an hour a week and schedule some posts. It does really take kind of the headache out of it when you sort of make a system like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that system of scheduling works really, really well.
It really
for a lot of
helps.
people.
Yeah, it does.
Like most things. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then from what we've talked about, you also you like mostly focus in Instagram, right? And
yeah,
right?
I don't really do Facebook much. Yeah, I primarily just on Instagram.
Okay. And from so just everybody listening, and I got, you know, an advanced preview of some of the things that we were going to talk about today. So what we found was that Hillary, you're having, like you said, you're involved, but you have help, and then both Jennifer and Allison are managing it on your own. So Jennifer or Allison, at any point were you getting help, or you just found you liked doing it and didn't need to outsource?
Yeah, no, I never considered outsourcing. I mean, I have no one that would do it for me. And also I just kind of enjoyed the like artistic part of it, and you know, planning all the colors and the themes and taking the photos and doing the edits. Like I really enjoyed the creative outlet part of it. So yeah, I don't think I would ever have someone else do it for me, but it would be nice. Sounds nice.
Yeah. And what about Jennifer?
Yeah. I would say the same. I have never really thought about outsourcing it to someone else. I enjoy seeing the creative process of taking the photos and planning them out and editing them. I would say the only help I get is sometimes I will ask my husband, like, do you like this picture more or this picture more? But that's probably about the only consulting that happens. But yeah, otherwise it's all me.
Okay. And then Hillary, I know that you said you are involved, right? We saw you in the videos, you have your team, but you are involved. So what is it that, you know, have you found that there's certain things that you kind of take on and certain things that you have other folks focus on, like, or are you still kind of developing that process?
I think it changes, and you know, I hate to bring up COVID again, but the world changed, you know, a little while ago, forever. So kind of we're all trying to figure out a new norm as well. But no, I mean, in my practice, I will always have a very strong hold of what's going on social media wise. So I'm also connected with the NHL team here. My husband works for them. And I met with one of the players' wives who is like an influencer a couple years back. And I really wanted to figure out like how to get a bigger social media presence. This was before I was working with anybody, and was really a bit of my story, and I won't get into my story, but I was training for the Olympics as a cross-country ski racer, and I overtrained. So I had adrenal fatigue, and just, I went from, one of the top skiers in the nation to, way, way, way down there. And so I was processing everything that I was going through. And along that journey, I found acupuncture, and really, when I found acupuncture, and all of my professors, rightly so, were saying, you really should go into working with athletes. Like, this is your world. This is what you know. And I wanted nothing to do with athletes because it had caused me so much pain and disappointment. And about 5 years into my practice, I went, I need to work with athletes. Like, this is my language. This is what I know. Like, I know it in my sleep. And so at that point, I kind of started to really brand myself and figure out who I was and who Jada was. And I wasn't working with any social media at that point in time. So even up to 5 years ago, wasn't doing anything. Met with this influencer, and she was like, it's super easy. Like, you just take a picture and then you post, and she gets like 1,000 likes. And I was getting like no interaction. I said, this is not easy at all. And I have better things to do in my life. I would rather go work out. And so I started to kind of poke around and see if anybody could help me. So it really has just transpired organically for me, where I haven't had like big interviews or anything like that. People have presented themselves. And so the things that Jen and Allison really enjoy doing, I'm super artistic, but that's not what I want to be doing with my time. So I envy you guys because you love putting the posts together, and I don't. I can come up with the verbiage, and I can look at it, and I know what I like and I don't like, but it's not my strong suit. So I think paying attention to that, and as I'm listening to them speak, I'm going, yeah, no, like, I have no interest in, even with these Facebook live videos that I committed to doing, like, they're sort of like, oh man, I got to go do this post. Like, and then once I'm doing it, like, I like the interaction. But yeah, so it's really interesting. I think being authentic and sticking to where your greatest attributes are. Your pages are beautiful, by the way, ladies. So I'm kind of in awe of them, and I want to look more into them because they're gorgeous, and I love crystals as well. But really going, okay, I'm somebody who's going to do a really great job of managing my posts, or I'm somebody who really could use somebody else doing that for me because my time is better spent doing something else. And I think being really realistic with that, I can't remember who spoke, but they said, I don't plan the posts when I'm not feeling the energy. And I think I'm just like, that's kind of where I sit more often, is like, that's not where my creative juices start to flow. It's not social media.
Yeah. And I think
more blogs.
Thank you.
I think blog writing is a better outlet for me.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, we all kind of have to shift and evolve and see what speaks to us. And there's certainly practitioners where maybe none of this does. They don't want any part of it, but they feel like, there needs to be some sort of presence. And the good news is there are many, many people that can help us out with this sort of thing in all different capacities. There's people that, help do the post, or courses that teach you the post. I'm constantly learning. Like I said, I went from media, and then the whole world changed by the time I got out of acupuncture school. But yeah, and then one thing to note too is, that it's just a constant, like, it seems in the themes that you've all talked about in conversations we've had before, that you just kind of have to sometimes learn as you go, because there is not one set way to do things. And maybe you're really excited about a post, and you see people not interacting, and then you see them interact in another post, and then you learn how to go as you go. And even for someone that is an expert, maybe they're not an expert in Chinese medicine. And I think it was Hillary too that also said something about, when some of your personal kind of shares and stories. And this is what I think, something like Instagram, that's what I've seen, is once I start kind of sharing more of me rather than kind of things that are more business, they tend to get more interaction. So yeah, anyone have any comments on that I just mentioned?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, people really like the pretty pictures and stuff, but they also really like to see that there's a human behind it, and that there's a personality behind it, and there's someone that they can really connect with as well. I think it really does make a difference. But it is really scary, like kind of putting yourself out there. And for like years, I wouldn't even post a picture of myself, just because it's weird being vulnerable online. But it does, people do resonate with it, and I find, especially the posts where I'm giving like Chinese medicine advice or just like hormonal help, and people resonate with whatever the post is about and learn a little bit of something about what's going on in their body, and then can have some ideas on how they can help it. And it's really rewarding when you develop that sort of community and people are being impacted by what you're posting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I didn't have this question in advance to any of you, but I'm curious if anyone's done any sort of like Instagram ads, or if it's all just been organic for all of you.
Mine have been organic.
Okay.
We have not done any ads. I think a few years back, the person that I was working with thought that the Facebook ads might be a good way to go. I didn't even know that Instagram was doing ads, so like news to me. But no, it's been more organic. But I know that people are spending more time on social media right now, and they're spending more time reading actual things and watching videos. So it's all going to kind of change how we interact and what they put out there. But I'm to be transparent, I'm thinking about going a little bit more that route. And this is social media specifically, but kind of a Google route with like a campaign that then social media would also support. So there's a lot of things to learn, and we did not, at least the school I went to and my doctorate, learn how to manage and maneuver all of this, right? So
right. Oh yeah. I mean, and what I've seen in most schools, maybe just like an introduction, or just like with Allison, like, here, start your website, how do you envision? But I haven't heard of any school going in depth. It would change so fast. What about Jennifer? Have you done any like Instagram or Facebook ads, or has everything just been organic?
I have not done any ads, so it's all been organic and word of mouth. Yeah.
Yep. And then I'm jumping ahead a little bit because I think so one of the things Hillary said was, in terms of, social media, that's more, branding for you, not necessarily, a patient driver, right? Just more of, word of mouth and things like that. But I did see, I think it was for both Allison and Jennifer. I'm trying to see who said what. So Jennifer, I think it was you that said you actually are tagging using city and location. So some people have found you through that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I have gotten some patients just through Instagram. On my posts, I will tag different cities or just North County, San Diego in general, because I do have a lot of patients in Carlsbad and surrounding towns. So I think people have found me through that. They've found me also through the climbing gym that I climb at, because I've done events there, and I will post pictures of me climbing. And so I think that's also put more of a face to me.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
this is an actual person who lives in my actual town, who does these same things that I like. And hey, she's an acupuncturist also.
Great. So kind of again, again, that personal story behind it. So it sounds like you were just, you know, being you, being authentic, posting about your climbing, and then someone else kind of maybe like tag that, someone else sees that tagged photo, or not tag, I guess you would hashtag, and that, and then that person would then kind of be like, oh, look at she does acupuncture, I've always wanted to try, and then gone into make an appointment. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for Allison, I think you said you also have like other acupuncturists that might find you and refer. If you want to talk about that, is that happen more than once? That's great.
Oh yeah, no. So I have gotten some patients from just them following me on Instagram or finding me there. But I have also, because I've made friends with a lot of acupuncturists sort of all over the world. And I think when they have patients that are in town or that move to Vancouver, then I have had them refer them to me, and then they become patients of mine as well. So I found that really helpful as well, building that relationship with other acupuncturists through Instagram. And then through my posts, they say, oh, okay, she kind of knows what she's talking about and knows this, or specializes in this, and she can probably help this patient of mine. So I have gotten referrals that way.
Great. Fantastic. And then so this next part, we talked a little bit about routine. So I just want to kind of summarize some things that maybe haven't been said, and then we'll see if there's anything to add. We'll do a little round table here. So for having the routine, I saw, I'm kind of compiling from the three of you, sometimes it's just posting about 2 to 4 weeks of pictures. It sounds like all of you kind of keep a list of topics, whether it be on your phone or spreadsheet, kind of keeping these topics handy so that when you can go, sit down to do your scheduled time, you have that. And then you all, do a mix of different things, right? It's not just Chinese medicine and gua sha and acupuncture and cupping. There's, recipes or conditions that you're seeing. I see some of you might even reuse some topics, which is great because there's always a lot to say. And then Allison, you also, or Jennifer, let's see, Allison and Jennifer both, you take the majority of them. Is that correct? That you're both, we'll start with Allison. I know that you're taking the photos yourself too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do repost some people's photos once in a while, but I take all of my photos on my iPhone. And so yeah, I do have like about 2 to 4 weeks, it ranges, of some sort of visual content on my phone that I'm planning on posting as a backup. So yeah, whenever I'm in the mood, I'll just try to take a bunch of photos. I do a lot of like crystals and acupuncture needle photos, so I'll just try to like batch those. So I'll do a bunch of photos about this or a bunch of photos about something else, so I can do them really quickly and then have just a bunch of content waiting. So yeah, I kind of do it that way.
And Jennifer, thank you. And Jennifer, do you also kind of batch your photos? Like,
yes, I will batch my photos and take a bunch in one day. And my setup is very it's not fancy at all. I have like a white particle board that I put on my counter, and I take pictures when the light is coming in well in my kitchen. So it does not have to be a fancy, photo shoot setup. I take photos on my phone, and yeah, I enjoy doing it, and I think it's fun, which, I get not everybody might want to do that, but I think it's fun.
Yeah, awesome. And then some tools. I saw Canva, So Canva as being a great way to create text over images or illustrations. I mean, I've kind of just dabbled with it. Hootsuite. So Hootsuite, like an owl, Hootsuite is a way to schedule posts. Any other tools that either, that any of the three of you are using other than Canva or Hootsuite?
No, and I think that Hootsuite, or there's other scheduling apps out there as well. So Hootsuite's not the only one. I think it's just been around potentially the longest. It's
Yeah.
really, and I don't know if the other ladies would agree, like it's really awesome to schedule them. And I know that you guys said that you don't like to schedule them too far in advance. And I agree because like, just for instance, you schedule all these really awesome posts, like in my world about maybe like, most recently, like the draft or, if it wasn't COVID, like, getting the guys back in town and the NFL is, starting up. And then all of a sudden, like something like 9/11 happens. You have to be able to react to that because you don't want to be pushing out information and product that doesn't resonate with where people are at in the world. You can certainly, in this day and age where some people are really, really struggling, be that beacon of light, but I don't think you want to ignore what's actually happening in the world. So I agree that you don't want months and months of content, booked out in advance, but you can move things around on Hootsuite. But we all know we get busy. You all know that you're walking out the door and then you spill your cup of coffee on you and you have to run in and change your clothes and then you get to work late and then you can't get the post out when you want it, all of that. So just having it, I think anything that you can do automated is like brilliant. If I can automate it, I'm going to automate it because there's so many millions of things that I focus on every day that they just would fall by the wayside. And I'm also a stepmother to 3 kids and homeschooling now and stuff. So it's just like things need to just happen. And then putting in the energy, like they said, when you're feeling the juju, get in the flow, man, and get those posts out there because they're going to be beautiful. And you may wake up one morning being like, I hate the world. And that would be a bad day to make a post, right? So like, it's really awesome that one was already booked to go out. So you can hide behind that unless you want to be vulnerable, which I was honestly in one of my live videos. I had a friend on a respirator and I lost it in my video. And that was probably, I had the most interactions of that. I mean, people just thanking me, going back to what we were talking about before, like vulnerability, just being like, thank you so much. Like other people are hurting and I really appreciate that you are talking about it. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. There's a lot of, stars right now, Hollywood stars that are talking about their issues with depression and anxiety for kids that they can really help out. So that vulnerability can be more beneficial than almost anything that we do. I think just realizing that people are real and we're real too. And we feel things and
I know.
Not all the time. I don't think that this is a self-help type thing and you shouldn't be airing all of your dirty laundry, but I do think that it can be a really powerful tool for your followers and for yourself to occasionally surprise them with some vulnerability, I don't know if the others would agree.
Yeah, I think that's, thank you. And let's see, Jennifer, what do you wish that someone told you before you got started with social media?
So I think there's a few different things. First, and this is sort of contrary to what we're talking about, I don't think you need a social media presence to have a successful practice. And I think it can definitely help lend credibility to yourself and attract new patients and build your brand. But I have a lot of colleagues who have great practices and they don't have a big Facebook or Instagram presence and they're totally fine. So I think it, again, comes back to feeling like if it's something authentic for you and something that you're going to be consistent about doing, whether it's you doing a bunch of posts ahead of time and having Hootsuite put them out or you taking the time to do it yourself. It's more important for it to be genuine and authentic. Because I think if you're just kind of throwing posts together with little thought put into it and at the last minute, and if it's not fun for you, I think people can tell. You can, like, if you start to look at Instagram, you can tell the posts where people put real effort into it, and then the ones where people just sort of throw something together. So I think your social media definitely doesn't need to be perfect, but it is a way for people to get a sense of who you are. And people want to feel like they can trust you, because if they're going to be your patient, they're putting their health in your hands and you're sticking needles in them. They want to know that you're a real person. And so I think your social media is a reflection of that. And so it's definitely worth putting some effort in. And then finally, I would say, for me, it's also, I wish I had known that how am I going to put this? For a lot of people that follow you on social media, you're the only acupuncturist they know. So sometimes for me, I follow lots of acupuncturists, and sometimes you get tired of scrolling through the same info, the same holidays, people put out what you see is the same information. But what keeps me going is thinking about all the people, all my friends and family, and, people who follow me that I don't know at all. But this could be the first time they're hearing this information. So it doesn't matter just how small the information is or how simple you think it is in terms of Chinese medicine. If, it could be the first time they're hearing it. And so it's important to just keep it simple and authentic and practical.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really great point. The simplicity, authentic, and kind of, it seems, again, that theme, that personal story, right? And when because I know for me, when being authentic, and not thinking so much about it and just really being me, who I am in practice with my patients, I mean, it's kind of the same in a way, right? Just because I know for me, I can kind of get in my head, oh, this post has to look like this or that. And then the more authentic, like, oh, I'm just going to talk about this just as I would to a patient. And, that's where it, just starts to flow. So great. Any comments from anybody on that? And then we'll move into our last topic.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, go for it, Hillary.
Okay. The authentic component is huge. I also think to piggyback on, our families and our patients and people who are not our patients, but they just found us through social media. I'll get, when I do a Vikings post or the guys do one of their stories on me, I get a bump in followers because they're like, oh, well, I want to see who this person is. And to your point, like, make sure you dumb down what you know, because, and I learned this a long time when I was coaching skiing and preparing athletes for races, like, they didn't know what to eat before a race, which for me, I've known since I was like 1, just what works and what you should do. And like, I eat, breathe, and sleep, sports, and acupuncture. But our followers, like, I just recently did, hey, do these stretches, because you're sitting at home, just do these like 5 stretches, no brainer stretches. People were like, thank you so much, that was amazing. So like, remember that we are, experts in our field, and you just can dumb down, and that's not used in a bad word, that's get it to their level so that they can digest it, because so much of what we know, we can't separate the TCM from the person anymore, because it's what we are. But other people don't live in that world, so they will find things fascinating. Like, when I did a difference, what is dry needling and what is acupuncture? Fertility isn't as big of a deal, but for me in the sports medicine world, like, it's a huge deal. There's PTs right down the hall for me doing it. And so getting in and just kind of really unemotionally, but just factually talking about the differences of it was really powerful for people. They're like, oh, I've been wondering. And it's like, that's a question I get at least a couple times a week. So some of those questions that you see coming up, like, how did you get into acupuncture? What's your journey? What is dry needling different than acupuncture? Like, what is cupping? Michael Phelps did it. All of these things. Put those as like little seeds in your brain, because people are looking for that kind of information. And I found that can be really beneficial for people as well. And if one person's asking you about it, more people are curious about it as well. And I fully agree that you don't need to have a huge social media presence. I can see that I have a smaller social media presence than the other ladies do. And I have a very, very busy practice because it's almost all referral. And some people don't even know I have social media. And because I'm not attached to it, I am not doing the photos. I think maybe I don't care too much about it. I think that it's a really important platform to have moving forward, because I think that it's something like a CD or, our electronic, records that can be transferred into the next thing that comes along. I think it's a good thing to have your hand on the pulse of it, but I don't think that it's something that if it doesn't feel authentic to you, that you absolutely have to dive into and force it, because they absolutely can smell when it's not, quote unquote, like a fake post, like you don't really feel it. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, all great points for sure. And yeah, I would love to just talk about herbs a little bit, unless anybody has anything that they're just really wanting to insert before we moved into that part. Anyone? We good to
I
move
kind of
on to our
wanted
last?
to,
Yeah.
I really agree with Jen when she was saying how like there's the people that you follow are not necessarily the people that your followers follow. So they could be getting this kind of information for the very first time. So don't ever be afraid to like really repeat information a lot, because especially with the Instagram algorithm, you never know what posts your followers are actually going to see. So it's really okay to just keep mixing up the information, even though it's the same topic, and still posting it. And I really found that like once I stopped being afraid to post really similar pictures as well, then it was a lot easier to gather a whole bunch of content to post, because I was thought like, oh, okay, I posted this one type of picture, people really liked it, but I shouldn't have to post it again. But if you change just like a little bit of something in the photo and then repost it, chances are if people liked it once, they're going to like it again. And it's totally okay to post really similar pictures. And yeah, the vulnerability part is really important, I think, especially for healthcare practitioners, because we kind of have this pressure on us to be like really healthy and really good, role models for health. And I think being realistic and showing that, sometimes you're not 100% healthy. Like sometimes I'll have, some junk food, or
Yep.
especially with all this COVID stuff, like I've definitely had stressful days where I wasn't, the perfect role model of health. And I was really open about it on Instagram. And I find not only like my regular followers resonated, but a whole bunch of other health practitioners were like, oh, thank you. Like this is a really stressful time and I'm not doing all the things that I recommend to my patients, but that's okay for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really, really good point. Yeah, and I'm gonna do a summary at the end too. And then anybody else before we move on to the last part? This has been fantastic, such great content.
Just again to piggyback on that is, I think what is it that people need to see something like a certain amount of times to even interact with it. So on the point of mix up the picture a little bit, or you're talking about a certain thing with maybe an injury or your period or hormones or something, change it a little bit and repost it, because one, you don't know the algorithms, which is super true, and two, I think people need to see something like a handful of times before they'll even interact with it or respond to it. So and that simplifies your life a little bit. So I think that that's a really, really great point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of goes back to, earlier finding simplicities too, where, we don't have to overcomplicate it. So the other question was one that I also didn't ask in advance, but it's something that's been coming up for me a lot this week in talking to practitioners, especially those that are, that use Dow Labs in their clinic. I think as acupuncturists, we all kind of share the same, like, we'll suggest it when it makes sense. We'll suggest a formula when it's appropriate. And so there's some people that have been a little, I don't want to say worried, but just, unsure really how to do some promotion of the herbs. And I just wanted to, for the sake of the recording, is we do have some really, really awesome images. So I'm just pulling that up on the screen right now of the actual, of actual herbs. I was talking to someone last night about this fantastic, I love this one of immunity support that shows the actual herbs and the packet. And so we were just having a lot of conversations this week about ways to, educate without feeling like they're selling. So being, here's the different herbs in the formula, like take immunity support, for example. And during that week, each day they might talk about different herbs in that formula, or maybe just Chinese medicine, herbal medicine in general, like history of it, or little facts here and there. So I was just wondering if the three of you, to kind of close out our session, and then I'll summarize at the end, how you found ways to just successfully educate where it doesn't feel like you're selling, because that seems to be a lot of concern about some folks that are newer to social media and maybe newer to Dow Labs, is they feel like they're selling when they're educating. So just thought maybe you could each comment on that.
So I can
We'll
go
start
first.
go ahead.
I'm always the first to like jump in if there's any like quiet time. I'm like, oh no. I think the whole thing is like sharing, not selling. A lot of companies talk about that, and to me, sometimes you laugh and you go, yeah, that's BS. Like, this is totally selling. I think one of the things, and we've used this word multiple times, but if you're authentic with it, when you put something out there, for instance, if this was a social media page and you really feel it and you believe in it, that is sharing. If you put it out there and you are expecting something in response, you are expecting a bunch of people to jump on board and buy a bunch of product, then you're expecting and not accepting it. And that is going to feel much more like a sell to me. So if you can kind of be like, am I expecting something from this, or am I putting it out there because I truly believe in this product? And I know that the people that I'm sharing this with trust me, and I don't want to rattle that connection and that friendship, that relationship. I think that it can really be how you send it out there is how it's also perceived. But I think when you expect something in return, that's when it's going to feel more like selling. It's just super simply face-to-face is really different. Like all of my patients, I build up a really, really tight connection and respect and honoring each other really quickly. And so then in person, like it's really quite easy to be like, hey, I think that this formula would work really well for you. I think this product would work really well for you. But via social media, I think it's something if you really believe in, man, send it out there. But know what you're sending out there and have tried the product and know the experience. Because if you get questions, you better be able to answer them. Or you're not an expert anymore. You shouldn't have shared that.
Thanks. Allison, how about you?
Yeah, I think, you definitely have to know what you're talking about. But then also I always try to go towards the side of I'm just talking about how much I love these formulas. Like these are formulas that I use all the time and they're really great. And so I always just try to focus on what do I love about the formula? How have I seen it shift patients' conditions for the better? And I just try to focus on that rather than actively trying to sell the product. I'm just trying to talk about how it's impacted my practice and how I feel about it, how it's impacted my life, what I use it for, and those kinds of things. The things that really get me excited are, how it's really beneficial for patients. So that's what I try to focus on in the post and sort of gear that energy towards it. Rather than I don't really think of it as trying to sell. I'm just trying to educate patients, and I'm just trying to help them feel better. And I know that if these formulas are going to help them, I feel completely 100% okay talking about it and posting about it because I know that they're going to make a big difference.
Great, thank you. And Jennifer?
Yes, I would definitely agree with everything that Hillary and Allison have said. When I post about Dow Labs, I tend to frame it as far as how it's helped me and my patients. And I like to also center it around, I think the ones that I've posted the most about are probably the immune support and the digestion. And I've posted about it, like I take them traveling with me a lot back when we traveled, and sharing my personal experience of, taking digestive harmony after being on a trip. And I thought I was coming down with some kind of like digestive distress, and it totally worked. And so I feel like that is a way for me to post about it and share my experience with it without it feeling like you're selling.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that kind of rounds out everything, because if we think about it, what we've just talked about in terms of posting about herbal medicine, it really fits a lot of the themes that we talked about throughout the whole hour. Thank you. This has been amazing. We've gone for just about an hour. So a key element, in speaking about Dow Labs is, how has Dow Labs helped you and helped your patients and your practice? So again, it comes down to that authenticity that we've talked about. Another theme that, continued to come up throughout the conversation was, the personal story, us as role models, but also being vulnerable, speaking about, all the different modalities, having a system, whether it be, managing on your own or getting support, still needing a system, whether that be posting, a week in advance or posting for 4 weeks. And then the other thing is kind of using, we didn't talk a ton about hashtags, but, tagging location of where you are, or, posting, like you said, with the climbing gym, being out and about just in our communities. So I thought that was great to listen, to see how some referrals came in, and then possibly investing in maybe like a Hootsuite or Canva, just two of the many tools out there. But I think the biggest theme is just that personal story, and that vulnerability. That seemed to be the big theme of the night, and something that I've noticed that, shifted my social media too. So any other last thoughts? We'll just go Allison, Hillary, and then Jennifer. So let's start with Allison.
Yeah, sure. I think it's just really important to have fun with it. Like if it's not fun, if you don't enjoy it, then it's just not going to be worth it. And I think at this point in time, there's so many ways to develop your practice and to build up a client base, that if you don't like something, then focus on something else that you really love. Like there's so many ways to advertise and get patients in, that you don't do it and you don't do anything if you don't love to do it. If you really love to do it, then it'll show, and then that's when you'll get the attention.
Great. Hillary?
Yeah, and on that point is because there are so many different ways of attracting patients to us, if we're speaking specifically about which this one was social media in our practice. Don't try to do, and I agree with this as a practitioner as well, in the type of medicine we treat, or practice, don't try to do everything, because you're going to end up doing that halfway. Do something really well. So if you love social media, do it and do it really well. And maybe you're not doing some of the other things that some of your colleagues have found really beneficial and helpful. So I think kind of being that laser focus, definitely dabble and enjoy. And I mean, you don't have to take my word for it, but I definitely found that in my practice when I did solidify myself as a sports acupuncturist. My practice blew up, although I was scared to let go of things, because it was like, no, but they wanted me for that. But you always will attract the people that you're supposed to. And so sometimes you just need to jump off of that cliff and be like, I love taking these pictures in my kitchen on my whiteboard, and I'm good at it, and I'm going to dive into this. And I think that that's super awesome and a really great way of promoting your practice. And maybe you don't do as many speaking events or show up at races or, do some of those other things because this is where your talent is. Like, definitely go where your attributes are, because as they said, like, it will show.
Great. And then Jennifer.
Yeah, I was just to again reiterate, and Hillary, I think you spoke really true to what I was going to say, is that not just in your practice feeling like you have to, it's okay to specialize in something. I think the same goes with your social media. Like, I know for me, for my Instagram, sometimes you can start out thinking you have to post about everything, like a little bit about Chinese medicine. You want to do conditions you're seeing in clinic. You want to talk about headaches and fertility and all this, a little bit of everything, when really it's okay to just have all of the majority or all of your posts be in one particular lane. And that's okay, because then that's how people get to know you. And I think it makes it more like, oh, she's the one that always does the recipes. Like for me, as I've been working on my cookbook, I've been doing more recipes and more food highlights, and the posts about other conditions have sort of fallen away, but that's okay. And so I think it's okay to really specialize in your practice and in your social media and not be afraid to just go for it.
A really good point, and it's a good way to end it. Just go for it and learn, right? Just like anything. Thank you, everyone. This has been fantastic. It will be posted for all of our acupuncturists in the Facebook group, as well as our resource guide. I really appreciate, I know things are quite busy for everybody in different ways. So I appreciate you all taking the time for us and for all the practitioners that we have now and our new practitioners in the future. So thank you, and I wish you
no problem. Thank
all the
you.
best. Yeah,
Thank you so much for having us.
great day.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Stay healthy, everyone.
Bye-bye. Yes, of course. You too, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.